Hello and welcome to this special screening of Flame and Citron. Could I please introduce the star? I know you recognise him, Mads Mikkelsen. You are a very convincing baddie in all of your films, but in this film you get to play a kind of good baddie. Sorry, a kind of bad goodie. See, now I'm confused.
Exactly. It is a character from the Second War Resistance in Denmark, and I think we're making a film in the grey area, so he will be a good baddie, definitely.
Enjoy the film. See you after then.
Kan du huske 9. april?
In 1940, Germany invaded its neutral neighbour to the north, Denmark.
Gestapo, Wehrmacht, Abwehr, SS.
At first, the Nazi occupiers were relatively benign, but they made increasingly brutal demands on the government. 1,000 civilians joined the Danish resistance. They were extremely effective at the 3 S's: spying, sabotage, and assassination. And 2 of their most legendary fighters were known by the code names Flame and Citron. Flame is played by rising star Third Lindhardt.
He almost becomes like a Hamlet figure in a way. He starts to ask himself existential questions, like, what am I doing? How do the things that I do affect other people? And the moment you start asking yourself those questions, things will start to change.
Die machen einen großen Fehler.
I wanted with this film to create another kind of hero with souls and sprinkles in the souls and the bloods and the doubts, because normally you have like these Second World War heroes are always like untouchable, and that makes it very hard for contemporary people to relate to.
Citron is played by Mads Mikkelsen, one of Europe's most sought-after stars. Mads didn't get his first film role till he was 31.
Okay, du kører fedt.
As a thuggish dimwit, Tony in Pusher.
Okay.
Director Nicholas Winding Refn's smashing debut.
He was looking for people who was absolutely not understandable when they were speaking. He made an audition with me, and he didn't understand anything I said, so I got the job.
Pusher immediately placed Mads and Nicholas at the foamy crest of the Danish wave. They teamed again for Bleeder, in which Mads played a very different character.
I play a video nerd who works in a video store and knows everything about the film, and have a very hard time talking to girls. He's basically just in love with films, and this is where he's hiding out, so he doesn't have to face the world.
Mads and Nicholas revisited the Tony character years later in a rousing Pusher sequel.
I wasn't sure I wanted to go back to that screaming idiot, but once you got your head shaved and got the tattoos on again, I started liking him. He's a very likable idiot, and that's also what I think is so powerful about the film.
Such films as the Oscar-nominated After the Wedding have elevated Mads to leading man status.
Come on, remote! You have to go to class.
That was a slightly different part for me. I was playing a guy who's taking care of orphans in India. I think it was a beautiful story.
Beautiful, but not the role that really put him into play.
You changed your shirt, Mr. Bond. I hope our little game isn't causing you to perspire.
Mads portrayed one of the scariest ever Bond villains in the film that revived the franchise.
I could definitely read that this was a different style and different energy. Bond was very different, and so was the villain.
Nu skal du se, hvad far har købt til dig.
And with Flame and Citron, Mads turns back from baddie to goodie, though it's not quite that simple.
Der ikke noget, der retfærdigt eller uretfærdigt mere. Der krig.
In many ways, this film is almost an anti-hero film. I mean, there's a lot of bungled executions. Did that really happen?
As far as we know, everything happened as we show it. I mean, it's probably very difficult to kill a person. It's probably very difficult to kill a person who's pointing a gun at you. But to sneak up behind somebody and shoot them in the back of the neck and really believe that is for the benefit of the nation right now, That's a borderline thing, and a lot of these people did not survive it. They committed suicide right after the war. So it was a big sacrifice for what they did, and they were wrong sometimes, unfortunately.
Østergaard Petersen.
Det er korrekt.
What did you know about your character?
Not a lot. I mean, I knew that he was fighting for the freedom of Denmark, and I knew that he died a very violent death, and that is about it. Everything that was written about these two people was based on myth and legends, and obviously that was a very, very difficult source to use. My character was slightly more flamboyant. He was out there doing really crazy things, but he was very, very workaholic. He was constantly sailing people to Sweden, driving for other people, sabotaging different things. And as we portray him here, he was definitely a junkie. He was on pills to keep awake, to keep in the zone. But in order to tell the story we wanted to tell, we had to take it down a little, just to make it believable, and so that people could identify with these characters.
Jeg kunne ikke. Jeg ramte hende kun i skulderen.
Flame was also known to be, if I use the word, a bit more psychotic.
He was definitely what they describe him as ice cold. It was well known that when people did assassinate another person, and maybe for the first time, they would literally go and puke somewhere. Flame was unnoticed by it. He didn't react at all. He could go in and have a beer again and laugh.
Do you know whether Flame actually kept his red hair during the entire resistance? Because it does seem quite sort of counterproductive to highlight yourself.
The Flame, he kept his red hair throughout the whole war until his death. It was a strange period. These were like Hells Angels bikers on drugs. They were like sitting in the same restaurant with the Gestapo, celebrating an assassination, and they were literally doing that. And a lot of people, when they saw the film, found that unrealistic, but that is in fact what happened. They were in a circle of death, and there was no way they could get out of that. They were heading direct for their own death, and they knew it.
Karl-Heinz Hoffmann, Gestapo-chefen. Tag ikke fejl. Danmark har aldrig haft en større massemorder end ham.
Their motivations were very different, weren't they, in being involved in the resistance? There were 1,000 people that were involved in this, but they had very different reasons for going in.
Oh yeah, definitely. You had the classical criminals coming into the environment just to have some rock and roll in the street. And for Flames, he hated Nazis. He spent time in Germany, and he had a girlfriend who was Jewish, who was brutally killed.
Det eneste, der gør, det er at fjerne dem en for en. Indtil der ikke er flere.
My character was basically motivated by he just couldn't have the idea that somebody stepped on his country.
9. april står Jørgen og ser tyskerne marchere ind i byen. De endeløse rækker af soldater får det hele til at vende sig i ham.
I was really surprisingly touched by the film. There is one part where Flame says, we're not killing the people, we are killing the Nazis.
Hvorfor kunne du ikke?
Jeg glemte, at der ikke er mennesker, vi skyder. Det er nazister.
I thought it's like kind of turns upside down the whole idea of what's right and what's wrong.
This is, of course, a film about the gray area. War is super complex, and we're not trying to make any results here. We're just trying to portray what does war do to people.
Hvem fanden tror du, jeg er? Tror du, jeg er kommet for at stjæle dine penge, hva'? Hva? Synes du, jeg er en tyv? Synes du, jeg er en tyv?
I was just wondering what the Danish government thought of the film when it came out.
The Danish government in the 40s, right after, of course, sealed down all the cases, and there was no trials, there was nothing. But that was a long time ago. So this government, I think, is just looking at the film with the eyes of a normal audience and with a curiosity, and maybe they think we're right, and maybe they think we're wrong.
Schalburg-korpset.
Godmorgen.
Danskere i tysk uniform. Forrædere.
This used to be taught in school. I understood it was taken out of the history books. This film has certainly made it a talking point again, hasn't it?
Yeah, my kids in that generation did not know about these characters, did not know anything about the Second World War, and least of all the resistance. And of course, because of this film, they took it up as a topic in the schools again, and started discussing it and looking at all the angles, and which is a healthy thing to do.
So does that make you really cool with your son now?
I'm super cool, but I mean, I won that one on the Bond film.
Did you? Good. Can we please thank
you guys.
The star of Acclaimed and Citron, Mads Mikkelsen.
Skal vi tage med amerikanerne til Japan?
Flammen og citronen i Japan.
Netop.
Og hvad så bagefter?
Jeg tror ikke, der er noget bagefter.
Well, that's it for this fabulous picture show, and time to say goodbye to you.
Goodbye.
There's not going to be another James Bond sequel with you in it because you're dead, right?
I am. You gotta find my twin brother for that one.
But come back with another film, okay?
I promise.
Wonderful. And hope you join us on the next fabulous picture show as well. See you then.
Hvad skete der? Hvad skete der?
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this film and why?
I'd probably give it 9, maybe even 9.5.
I think they managed to shoot a very beautiful film, even though the subject matter is quite heavy and dramatic.
I don't really watch war movies, but this one was certainly interesting.
It's always nice to learn new stories and realise how little you know about that era when it's so recent in our history, really.